The Brandon Peters Show may contain explicit language and detailed plot points. For more information on the show, stay tuned to the end of the episode. And now, here's Brandon.
Welcome back to the show as we wrap up the holiday gift guide special here on the Brandon Peters Show. In this final installment, we turn to figures, books, comics, collectibles, things to go over some of those notable items here this holiday season. And returning to the show from the Saturday Evening Post, it's Troy Brownfield.
Yay. Thank you. Returning champion.
Returning champion. Took a couple weeks off. Now you're back. Now you're back at the show. Welcome, Troy. You and I, you were on my old show plenty. You've written guest articles for me before when I was a lowly blogger. But now we're here and we're talking about a side of you that I don't think we've recorded, written, but you're figure collecting. And if you're watching this on YouTube, you can see behind Troy means business.
That's right.
So if
yeah, it's probably a common story with people in my age group, but the things that I got started with were Mego figures, the Mego superheroes, had some Star Trek and Planet of the Apes, and then when Star Wars came out, I had the early bird package, the infamous send away the certificate and you get your box of the first 4 figures. I still have them. They're on the shelf. The Luke, Leia, Chewie, and R2. But so I've been a big figure collector most of my life, and these days I focus mainly on Star Wars Black Series and Marvel Legends, although I make the odd pickup outside of that here and there. But it's it's always been something I've done, but it definitely a tie-in to my comic book interest and movie interest as well.
To go together. And have you just been constant flux of collecting, or have there been droughts in your life in collecting where
there was a definite period, so I like a lot of kids in the early 80s, I was into G.I. Joe and Transformers and whatnot. And so as I started to kind of crest that 6th grade into junior high kind of thing, I had a drop off, when I think a lot of people do. A lot of that's pressure, it doesn't exist in the same way now that it did. I think now like that collecting is seen a lot more acceptable, like with everybody has Funko Pops on their desk or stuff like that. There's and a lot of things are directed at people, figures from Breaking Bad or whatever,
right.
You've got a different mentality. But then it kind of frowned upon. But then when I was in high school, I'd been a big X-Men reader for my whole life. And when Toy Biz came out with the very first assortment, the very first X-Men line that had, Cyclops and Storm, they're not the best figures,
right?
But there was something like, oh my God, they made X-Men figures. And that kind of pulled me back in. And that the second wave of those, if you recall, like was much better. But when they made that second wave of X-Men and Marvel figures, when they had Deathlock and Gambit and the Fantastic Four, they were getting a much better quality right away, but also the character selection was crazy.
Mm-hmm.
So that pulled me back, and I've pretty much been ever since.
Gotcha. Did you so like I had a period where I collected them, then I got out of it, and then I worked at Toys R Us when I was in high school, and that got me back into it a little bit. I was there
freshman year of college.
Yeah. When I was in college, though, I had no money to go spending on these things. But yeah, I personally have been in and out of flux. Like now I'm get more specific in my collecting and stuff like that. And the way I like certain things, but I think it's a great thing. I get jealous of people having all these things. But but like
Just, George Carlin used to say that a little bit of covet's good for the economy.
right,
You know,
right, right,
but
right.
when I remarked about Toys R Us, I worked at Toys R Us when I was a
Mhm.
freshman in college
Okay.
in Terre Haute, and so that was a good firsthand, you know,
Yeah.
place to be. And you did talk to other collectors and stuff, and you got a sense for things that other people were
And there
into.
were some interesting cats in those collectors. There was the Hot Wheels and Matchbox people.
Yes,
And
you'd
there
get
were
those
two
big
different
boxes of
people.
144 cars.
Yep. Two different kinds of people too. There were two different kinds of people. And then there were the Barbie people too. They were interesting as well. But yeah, the
Oh
Matchbox
yeah,
and yeah.
we had definitely some adult customers that were very hardcore Barbie collectors. It was one of the
Mm-hmm.
special and international editions, the Matchbox and Hot Wheels cars, those gross boxes. Man, there's always people like circling, waiting for one of those cases to get cracked,
Yeah.
and it was. And it was kind of funny to me because I thought, people, and this is something that I've always applied to like sports and whatnot. Because I'm a sports fan too, but it's funny how like the one segment of fandom is socially acceptable, and another segment of
Right.
fandom is what you make fun of, and everybody has the same behavior.
They do.
there,
They do. Right. Yeah.
there's no difference.
You have cosplay, you have jersey wearing. Like that's and you have the stat nerds. You apparently like math and number crunching if you're into that, playing fantasy sports.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. It's crazy. Um but yeah, those people, and we used to live for finding the character in the wrong package. That
Oh
was
yeah.
something we always I still this day I have my Wolverine in a Magneto package. That's my claim to fame. I only got one while I was there, but
Nice.
I did it.
There's a whole segment. There's a Marvel Legends collectors Facebook group, and there's an ongoing thread. And now it's mainly like people who will buy a figure and then return it where they've swapped the figure so they can get the money back.
Mm-hmm.
And people show like the most ridiculous examples that they've found of figures that have been put in
Right.
some package and returned.
Yeah.
And but those misprint thing, I remember when especially the Star Trek Next Generation by Playmates, the misprint cards on that were
Mm-hmm.
crazy business. People were paying absurd amounts of money for misprint cards.
Oh my. And you've taken, I mean, you write articles for, is it Graphic Policy, right? That's
Yeah,
about action figures. Tell us a little bit about
yeah.
how you've utilized your collecting into that.
Oh well, back regular listeners might know, but I ran a pop culture website for a real long time called shotgunreviews.com, and I
Yeah.
wrote which we covered a wide area of popular culture. But I wrote action figure reviews there just based on my own interest. And when I started writing for magazines and whatnot, I had a figure column in New Type USA magazine, and then I kind of took the idea of that. And when I was a columnist for Newsarama for 7 years, I put together a toy column there that I called Super Articulate. And I still that's mine, and that I've taken that a couple places, and it's currently for a couple of years now has been parked at graphicpolicy.com, which Brett Schenker runs, and it's it's fun because there's two elements to it. The I like the outlet of being able to talk to other people about it, and having the thing of where now there's a lot of teen to adult collectors who are more sophisticated in a way, and they can have really interesting discussions about the version of the character, the way that it's painted, or what makes this sculpt or this version of the character better than the other.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that's um, kind of a fun thing to participate in, and it gives a little bit of uh, justification sometimes.
Yeah.
If you're able and I know I'm a firm believer that you don't have to try to monetize or try to make sense of your hobbies in
Right.
some way, but it is it is kind of a logical extension. I'd be a writer either way,
Hmm.
but taking something that I enjoy naturally as a matter of course, and then writing about it just seems like a real natural thing to me.
Right.
Uh, and so like I said earlier, I do focus more on certain areas than I did before. There's a long period of time. I actually wrote an article about this for Graphic Policy once, like kind of my collection timeline, like what I collected when, starting
Right.
when I was a kid, and like there's things that were in and out. But really the Marvel and Star Wars has been the most consistent stuff with DC, not too far behind, but you know, but it is a fun thing to be able to go out and write about it and talk to people and occasionally get paid for it. It's
Right.
not
Right.
anything to argue with.
Well, and the people that outside looking in at you, like a lot of times, like, and I got this with family members or whatnot when I started writing and things like that, especially with White Blue. It's like, oh, look, he's doing something with that.
Right.
Because enjoyment isn't good enough.
Yeah.
Satisfaction, passion, nah.
It just like with anything that really grabs you, sometimes you have a hard time explaining it. But I definitely think that for most people who are figure collectors, that it is a companion element to something that they're already passionate about. Like if you're a big fan, say Buffy and Angel, for example, when they made Buffy and Angel figures, it's like, yeah, right there, because
Mhm.
it's an outgrowth of your fandom of a particular thing. You really enjoy these characters, you have an affinity for them, and it's one of the things that I've kind of done with my Marvel collection of over time. They make lots of versions of the same character, lots of
Right.
the character in different outfits from different time periods, and I like that because it allows me to make teams based on particular runs I enjoyed of the comics. Like I've
Mhm.
got a um, you know pretty representative mid '70s X-Men team, for example, or like most of the '60s Avengers or whatever, and I display them as they would have been from those times. And to me, it means something to me because it goes with those
Right.
things, as enjoying that book or enjoying that movie or whatnot.
Yeah, you get to like you become like an artist of displaying because I have that too. Like my son, because I have displays of things and he gets figures and Legos and things like that, and he's got them for display. Like doesn't play with them, he displays them.
Yeah.
Like this way he says, and it's crazy where your mind will go with those things. Because I have like a different shelves that have different themes, and I have like
Yeah.
for example my Doctor Who shelf with things,
Oh yeah.
and then like I have stuff to like represent things, but then there's a bigger Tom Baker section of things in the middle. Like there's
Right.
his companions, there's a lot more of his stuff there, but the way I've kind of spread it out kind of works, and I dig how it's turned out with just different things, and it's evolving. It could be something completely different next year, or I could invade another shelf because there's almost too much of it now. But it's just kind of,
Right.
yeah, definitely
It,
fun.
it's
And
like a form of storytelling.
yeah.
I mean, it's like a form of storytelling in a way, because it it says something about each individual person, like what they collect, how they choose to show it, what they've done with it,
Mhm.
and everything. And there's some guys that do really incredible dioramas. I do not have the physical arts talent to do some of this stuff, but I featured a guy in my column that I saw in one of the discussion boards who recreated the battle landscape from Endgame.
Oh.
And he lit it. It was amazing. He like cut up baskets and had spray painted them and stuff to replicate like the twisted metal from the wreckage. And he had
Yeah.
this whole landscape. He had underlit it and everything. And he'd gotten the versions of Cap with the broken shield and all that. And he had done this incredibly elaborate diorama. And people were just like, man,
Right. Yeah. Well,
because
what else could you
he
do?
had talent to realize that. Or I've seen people do some pretty great versions of like the front of the X Mansion with the gates and whatnot. And it really unlocks um, the talent in some people who that maybe they wouldn't have the talent necessarily to be sculptors or figure sculptors on their own, but they find the talent because they enjoy the hobby to bring out these dioramas or these photo sets that are really cool.
Mhm.
And it's just another extension of the hobby.
Yeah, definitely. And it's it's investment. It's a thing. It's fun. It never ends. It's like
It does not.
and it does not, especially nowadays. I mean, back in the day, I remember when getting the McFarlane, Freddy Krueger, Jason Voorhees was
Yep.
new, and it was like they're making action figures of those, and they're really nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a breakthrough. And I mean, I remember my teen years in the '90s. The Star Wars toys were all like super muscular people and odd, and
Yeah.
just the amount of detail. And with the rise of fandom being acceptable to be someone like this, like it's just let the artistic stuff flow, and conventions getting bigger, and just now
Yeah.
we're flooded. There's so much.
Yeah. I do think that it's, and it's funny too, like some things stick, like, Star Wars is not going anywhere anyway.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It had that fallow period in the late 80s, and when Heir to the Empire and whatnot happened, it came back and it never went away again.
Right.
But one thing that surprised me that's never had a figure line that stuck, although a couple of people that have had licenses for it and did some good figures, was Game of Thrones. Never stuck beyond a couple of assortments for anybody, as wildly popular as it was.
Mm-hmm.
They were just, it was kind of like a moving target, and I don't think anybody's going to do a comprehensive line on that now.
Yeah,
It's just gone away.
Well, it's kind of like,
do
you think Game of Thrones is going to be like a Lost, where it was like this huge thing and then just it was allowed to be and then ended, or you think they'll actually finally pick up on those prequel other shows?
I don't know. It depends on how the prequel series does, I think. Like if it comes back in a big way or whatnot. The other thing, there have been some of the high end 12-inch figure makers like Hot Toys and whatnot that have dabbled in this. But going back to an earlier discussion you and I had,
Mm-hmm.
I'm surprised there's never been a solid collector Bond line.
Yeah.
Like you would think that a Connery Bond and a Dr. No and a Goldfinger and an Oddjob, you'd think there would be a big sustainable market out there for people who would really like a comprehensive Bond line.
Right.
That's never happened.
Around Thunderball, they had figures and models for kids, but aside from that, I mean, we have Funko is making pop James Bonds slowly with specifics, but aside from that, I can't think of. I mean, there's the model Eagle Moss does a vehicle line for them, but for Bond, but it's never just straight figures or figurines or that is true.
Yeah, that's curious to me, because that's never really been exploited. So yeah, it's a good backdrop, I think.
Fair enough. Well, let's
for
move on.
Our conversation.
Yeah, let's move on to some gift ideas, sales, good places to go. Let's start with figures, because we're going to talk about some other things, but let's start with the figures since we're right here. So are there any Black Friday exclusive figures? Like we're dropping this on Black Friday at all this year?
There's not as much of that, but there are some things that do have some specials and some things that are coming available. Like last couple of days of November, first couple of days of December.
Mm-hmm.
There is kind of definitely in the action figure collecting community, there's kind of a big struggle right now. Like a lot of the companies are big about offering retailer exclusives, and they tend to be the bane of a lot of collectors, because these things are incredibly difficult to get in some circumstances. Now some retailers are better. Amazon is much better with offering this stuff in a very easy to order capacity. They frequently limit the amounts that you can order at one time. It prevents bots and scalpers and everything from getting on it. But Walmart and Target have struggled with that, but a lot of the places will offer these exclusives. But I did notice that in some Black Friday advertisements, there's some particular items that are at least for, if not on sale, but being featured or for decent prices. And one of them, close to me and you, because a previous episode of the show, Playmobil
Ah,
has done a Back to the Future set
oh,
that is the DeLorean, and it comes with it's got lights and whatnot, but it comes with Playmobil figures of Doc Brown and Marty and Einstein,
oh,
and
nice.
Marty has a skateboard and so forth. But it's a DeLorean, and they've previously done things like this. They previously done an Ecto One with Ghostbusters,
My kid has that one.
and
My son, yeah.
yeah. So they've done a few of these, but it's $45 for the box set,
Mhm.
which is pretty decent.
That's good, yeah.
But that's at Walmart, Target, and other retailers. So
Mhm.
that's generally available. But it's showing up in the Black Friday ads,
Okay.
and I think that that's going to be, you know, there's been a lot of talk about Back to the Future this year. Michael J. Fox has just been doing a round of interviews with his book coming out. He did the
Mhm.
commercial and everything. So I think it's on the minds of people in a way that it maybe hadn't been a year ago.
Mhm.
And it's interesting to see that show up. So I think that that will probably do well and get some interest. Also, in a lot of the big ads, and I'll come back to the Mandalorian a little bit more, but
Mhm.
Hasbro's animatronic child.
Yep.
Um, there are different versions of the child. Build a Bear Workshop has one that's great. That's got little sound things you can put in. There's plush ones with no sounds. There's a plush one about this scale that's $20. There's one slightly larger than 30 that comes in a cardboard box shell that looks like the floating pram. But the animatronic one with the movements and the facial expressions and whatnot is on sale for 80 at a
Okay.
lot of major retailers for Black Friday. It's
It was
um,
on Amazon. This is we're recording this the week before this episode drops. On Amazon this past week, it was 60 for like a second.
yeah, and that's the epic deals that
Yeah.
Amazon has, the epic deal for a day.
Mhm.
I grabbed a Marvel Legends 3 pack.
Mhm.
That it was the new costume of Psylocke, Phantom X, and Nimrod, who's right here. I don't know if you can see him on
I can,
screen,
yeah.
but massive. That box set was $80,
Mhm.
and um, it was on sale one day. I had a $20 gift card, $25 gift card. Anyway, there was the discount on that was deep enough that with the gift card I got it for $30. So I got it for
Okay.
$50 off on an epic deal day. And that's crazy.
Yeah.
But if you do kind of monitor those, some of the collectible things will have those sudden and deep drops. The Alpha Flight, that's too far down. The Alpha Flight box set is an Amazon exclusive, and that has taken a couple of deep dives
Okay.
on a couple of shopping periods. But yeah, that animatronic child I expect is going to be really big, and the plush child in the pouch that you see in season 2
Yes.
has come out, and I think that's going to be pretty solid. As for the collectible figure side, Star Wars Black Series, um, for viewers that are not familiar with the way that Star Wars is sold now, there's three distinct expressions of Star Wars figures. There's the 6-inch Black Series, which is superposable, highly detailed, run about $20. Some special ones are a little bit more than that. There's the Vintage Collection, which are the 3.75, also super detailed, and the Retro Collection, also 3.75, but they don't have the super detail. They have the 5 joint positions like the original 70s Star Wars
Okay.
figures had. But there are Mandalorian characters all the way down, and I expect that those will sell very well.
Right.
and
Oh yeah.
and the child that goes with the 6-inch Black Series comes in a very small box, but it's $10 as opposed to 20. So I
That's
you
fair.
yeah, exactly. So those are probably going to do well. Marvel Legends, I'm going to focus at 2 in particular because there's 2 Target exclusives that went on pre-order online. Their pre-orders already sold out, but will be in stores either the last couple of days of November, first couple of days of December. I hear there's a display that goes with them, so maybe an end cap.
Okay.
But there's a Marvel Legends Retro Rogue and Gambit.
Okay.
Now they've
Oh
had
yes, yes.
Rogue and Gambit before, but these are on the orange cards, like the 90s Toy Biz X-Men series. A lot of people that grew up are familiar with the orange cards. And Gambit has a paint scheme that is very like the cartoon and also his first appearance in the comics.
Mhm.
Rogue also has the cartoon outfit. There was a version of Rogue in that costume a few years ago, and it sold out hard and is insanely expensive on the aftermarket. So again, these are 20, and the Rogue also has interchangeable hands, not just the yellow gloved fist, but she's got one interchangeable hand that's a uncovered touching hand, and the other hand is gloved but holding the glove. So it's like as if she's taking the glove off of this hand to absorb, somebody's. But and it looks great, and both of those went on sale just a couple of days ago on Target for pre-orders. Sold out really fast, but they will be showing up in stores. I expect those to be pretty big. I don't know what else is going to be on the display for that. There's a lot of assortments that are out right now of different characters. There's a new Avengers assortment that's partially tied into the video game, where you have some versions of characters from the game, but it also has some Avengers that have never been made in the Marvel Legends scale before. Jocasta, who was an android that was created by Ultron, who turned on him and joined the Avengers, just like the Vision. Thunderstrike, who's Eric Masterson, who's a replacement Thor in the comics in the 90s and became his own superhero, a 90s version of the Falcon. So these are all out now.
Wow.
So I expect some of that. And on the DC side, to give DC extra time, we mentioned McFarlane a little bit ago. McFarlane Toys took over the DC license last year, and he has been approaching a very wide net. They're doing 7-inch figures, very detailed stuff you're used to from McFarlane. 20 plus points of articulation on the figures, but they are not limiting it to one idea. TV, comics, movies, they have the comprehensive license.
Okay.
So they've got, like, for example, an animated series version of Jon Stewart, but they also have some very specific comic book versions of the figures. And there's a very popular DC miniseries a couple years ago called Metal, and they had a sequel to it this year called Death Metal. And part of it involves the multiverse and like these crazy versions of the figures from different universes and so forth. And so there's a lot of those characters that are in line that have been coming out, and like really hyper detailed, like really impressive looking figures from McFarlane cover a wide range of characters. All these different, like, dark metal versions of Batman, for example, but also they have classic versions of, very comic book Superman, really cool Wonder Woman. They've got Wonder Woman 1984 figures, so
I got Wonder Woman 1984 Doritos this summer.
Yeah, and you're gonna get Wonder Woman 1984 for free if you have it. But so that stuff is out in force. And the other, like, the very last DC thing that's worth mentioning, the Imaginext line. The Imaginext line that's Fisher Price through Mattel, where they have all the different kid expressions. The DC bit has been kind of fallow for a little bit, but the blind bag figures, they're very popular. The 7th wave of the DC Imaginext blind bag figures just came out, and it's got some pretty obscure characters in it. To the world at large obscure, like Wildcat from the Justice Society, and Talon from the Court of Owls story, Killer Moth, Batman villain, Bronze Tiger.
That's
so it's pretty fun. And those are $3 to $4 a piece. You can find them at Kroger. You can find them at different places in the toilet, and a lot of the stores that have stocking stuffer aisles, those will show up there.
Okay.
And so those are a cool thing for collectors.
Yeah, we brought my son up on those Imaginext DC toys, like, and that it's like now we got the point where he doesn't. I'm like, we're gonna keep those. I'll keep those. Because they're really cool. I mean, look, I wish I would have had something like that when I was a kid.
My boys they will be in short order, 14 and 16. Kyle turns 14 in December, and Connor turns 16 in January. And they still have all of their Imaginext bases and so forth. And Kyle still is like, because he likes I think he got the completeness thing for me when he sees that there's like new line bags out. He's like, we don't have Bronze Tiger. We need to have Bronze Tiger,
Yeah, my kids as well. They picked up my good and bad habits. They're very organized. I tell you what, my son learned he learned to count, I think, from DVDs and Blu-rays, because he alphabetizes things, he organizes, and he knew like Spider-Man 1, 2, 3 in order, and he'd get mad if they weren't. And he knew how to. He's got his organization skills and stuff, and he does really well at school. Like they're always like, he's really organized. I'm like, yep.
Well,
But
yeah, I do think that there's a lot of positive side effects
yeah,
to collecting and so forth. I do think that it
I mean, it
people
not good
pick
on
up.
the anxiety sometimes, but
No, they dropped a Target exclusive 2-pack a couple of months ago, Marvel
mhm,
Legends. That was the Storm in her first appearance costume.
right.
And Thunderbird, who was a member of the X-Men that joined in the Giant Size X-Men 1. These were a 2-pack. I've been advocating for these to be in the Marvel Legends line for years. I don't know how many times I mentioned in columns, hey, they need to
Right.
make. And they finally say we're going to make them, and it's a Target exclusive. And I was like, God damn it! And when I went to order the pre-order the first day, like nobody got them. They were sold out in a minute. And then they had an actual hard on sale date, which was a
Mm.
Sunday. So I literally
Everybody's available.
went to the store when Target opened and got it, you know. But it was one of those things that was just like you said, there's an anxiety that
Mhm.
sometimes gets attached to it.
Yeah.
And yeah, bless my wife, she was really understanding of that particular mania.
Right. And it's funny. I was talking the previous episode. Stephanie Crawford and I were talking about the Vinegar Syndrome sale, which goes on sale Thanksgiving Eve at 12:01, and there's these limited titles, and there's a whole lot of website lag, crashing, not getting your cart right, and we're like, it's crazy, but there's a thrill to it that is
Yeah,
hard to explain, and it goes with I mean, it's all aspects of collecting. Get that, but yeah, it's hard to
it,
explain. It's like it's good and it's bad, and there's FOMO, as the kids say, and
yeah.
it's yeah.
And I think too that there's like I think I dug the thrill of the hunt more when I was in my 20s than in my 40s, because it's just like,
Yeah.
man, why can't I just order this online and go to bed?
Right, yeah, yeah. Now I can just order online. I don't have to go wait in some toy store's parking lot. I don't have to. The days of having to tell the people at a retail place how to do their job or where to find things is over,
Yeah,
because it's stuff they don't tend to like care about. I mean, I've told Best Buy employees, no, I looked there. Just go in the back. There's going to be a box. Just
yeah,
grab it. You guys didn't put it out. It's a catalog title, but it is new. It should be out here today. Oh, what do you know? Here it is. Or the first step is go look. I'm like, nope, don't.
yeah.
Yeah. But not to rag on them. Uh,
No,
so,
if you don't if it's not your thing, then it's hard
mhm.
to, you know,
What are some of your
you'll convert people every once in a while.
yeah, what are some of your favorite places online and in sort of like pick up figures at currently,
Oh
so
well,
people can be on the lookout for
I'm a big believer in Hasbro Pulse.
mhm.
Um, Hasbro Pulse is very um solid. Some people will complain about this or that, but I find them to be very solid. I mean, they have an easy to use site. The thing that people mainly complain about is that they will sometimes get you the stuff after people have received it from other places.
Okay.
And part of that, if I understand it correctly, the mechanism is that they send everything out to fill their orders first,
Mhm.
and then they fill their orders because they have everything.
Gotcha.
So, but when you look at Hasbro as an entity, what they have under their umbrella is Marvel, Star Wars, GI Joe, Transformers, Ghostbusters, all these other different elements, and they have fairly regular um, podcasts where they will go on Facebook Live or on YouTube, and the brand managers from Star Wars, um, Marvel, GI Joe, and Transformers in particular will come and communicate with the fans. This is
Oh.
what we're working on. This is what's coming out. This is the exclusive that's coming up. In 2 months, you'll be able to order this. Check this out. This is what's in development. We want to hear from you guys.
Mhm.
They're pretty good about that. And then, sometimes they'll say, hey, 4 o'clock on Tuesday, this is what's going to go up for pre-order.
Okay.
And they just did that last week. They added Moff Gideon, Grief Karga, and Queel to the Star Wars Black series, and those went up at 4 p.m. That day. And so people wanted to pre-order, they could they could pre-order from Hasbro directly. And if
Oh,
you're a premium member, then shipping's free.
well, that's
And
cool.
they don't charge you until it's ready to ship. So you can pre-order all day long.
I love that's my favorite pre-order is
Yeah.
not till it ships.
I've also had really good experiences with Big Bad Toy Store and Entertainment Earth, some of whom get exclusives to them as
Mhm.
stores as well. But I have a lot of good things to say about Hasbro Pulse,
Okay.
and I would say that's probably where I, you know, have gotten a lot of things over the past couple of years.
Yeah. And I do, it's funny you mentioned those exclusives that stores will get earlier, and I think it's funny when you go to like a shopping mall. At least all those places are right within walking distance of each other, and then you'll
Right.
go into like locally here we have a Think Geek store, and you go in there and they have like the other store's stuff, and you're like, wait, isn't that like a GameStop exclusive? But you got
Yeah.
it. I don't know how that works, but maybe they're owned by probably the same umbrella. But I do find that funny when you can just walk around to each of them and grab it. But for see, what do you think? What's your opinion? I know it's kind of like people lot of dog them a lot, but what's your opinion on like the Funko brand? Like I know it's very popular, but there's a lot of people that like to hate on the Funko
Oh,
stuff.
yeah. I think that this probably sounds really dumb. I think they're fun.
Mhm.
Uh, I think
Yeah.
they're really fun. My son Kyle in particular is really into them, and I've got nothing against that at all because it's like
Yeah.
if that's somebody's thing. And I've got a few of my own. I have very few. I have like 3 Game of Thrones ones.
Okay.
I got Jon Snow, Ghost, and One the Giant.
Yeah. Everybody's got
Um,
them in their house. I mean, you can
yeah,
hate, but you probably own a couple. you know.
right. I've got those, and Kyle stole my Doctor Strange one a long time ago because
Mm.
he's very into the Marvel, and lately he's been very into particularly the Fantastic Four characters. So the FF, Galactus, Herbie the Robot. He's
Mhm.
been getting those. He's also into the horror ones, and he asked for me to find Buffy and Angel ones for Christmas
Right.
because we recently finished. We with the boys, great things for quarantine. We watched the entirety of Buffy and
I'm
Angel 1
jealous.
4 like interspersed. We
That's
did it in
awesome.
order,
Yeah.
and so we're on Angel season 5 now, the final season. But that really activated um, that fandom for the guys in a way.
I have some
And
of the Titan Buffy mini
oh,
series that they
I
have.
I have when they did the Mac collectibles and then the Diamond Select
Mhm.
Buffy line that went for several years. I have a bunch of those
Okay.
over there, but it's an oddly incomplete line because they stopped at a certain point and like there's some really significant characters that never got made. Like they never made a gun
Yeah.
uh,
Right. No,
figure,
they didn't.
and there's a lot of other people that never got made that you would to feel like that was a finished line.
Yeah. I found it funny. Like I started getting those. I used to go to the comic book store on like a Wednesday, and they had them, and I'd buy one with my comics. And I
Yeah,
wound up, oddly enough, here's what I wound up with. I wound up with Buffy, Willow, Xander, and Oz, and then 2 variant Buffys. I'm like, wow, I got like a gang, like right there.
yeah,
I like, would have liked a Giles would have been complete, but it was weird how I got like a vampire Buffy as a vampire and a Buffy as a cheerleader as the variant. So, and I've got the
yeah,
classic black tank with the red pants. Um,
yes,
but it's kind of funny how that worked out. But I Funko I think has they do things that a lot of people have copied, and they gave me a Snake Plissken action figure for crying out loud, and Jack Burton, the retroactive line. How can you
yeah.
hate that? How can you hate
No, I think that there's a lot of great stuff, and I think that their ability to get a license for anything is
Yeah.
pretty impressive. I mean, they have literally everything.
And I think
Star
they're
Wars,
gonna
Marvel, DC,
yeah.
every conceivable movie, Twin Peaks. You
Right.
know, they've got the depth is incredible.
Yeah, and they're going to prove to be a gateway for a younger crowd to get into bigger collecting and innovative to be creators later on with stuff. And
Yeah,
I another line I like that I pick up is the Toonie Terrors. Those cartoon variations on
yes,
Jason. I love those. Um
yeah. I saw Ash and Ghostface recently
mhm.
um, for the Toonie Terrors. And those are pretty great. Those are
And
you know.
another place I love to death, Eagle Moss. I
Hmm.
love their figurines. That's where a lot of I just can't stop buying Doctor Who figurines. They have their Harry Potter stuff is terrific. I don't have much of that. And they have a DC license and a
that's
Star
another.
Trek license.
Yeah, Harry Potter is another one that it kills me that they've never been able to sustain a great ongoing line. Like McFarlane
Mhm.
has Harry Potter,
Oh,
and
okay.
he's only done 4 figures,
Oh,
and it just didn't go anywhere. He did a run, it was around like Order of the Phoenix ish
okay.
to Deathly Hot, like older. Harry, Ron, Hermione, and Voldemort, and each one had like Voldemort came with Nagini and Harry came with Patronus and so forth, and they just died. I mean, they looked
Mm.
great. But nothing else happened. And like when they first announced it, I'm like, oh, this is awesome. We're gonna get like Cho
Yeah.
Chan. We're gonna get nothing.
Nothing.
They,
Ah.
I think it was. I think maybe there was a bit of like with the movies over and everything that they were just
The
like the
legs.
time for that, but which is kind of depressing.
Yeah. I mean, there's a theme park. They have their own theme park now. I mean, it's pretty much where people go to Universal for. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's surprising that there's not some bigger line. But yeah, the Eagle Moss ones are really cool, and they offer a subscription based thing too. But my baby there is the Doctor Who stuff, and they've just the line of that one is coming to its end of their Doctor Who license. It could renew, but they've warned that the number, because they number their sets, and the
Yeah.
number they extended it for about 50 of them, and it's I think it's closing in on the number. But what
Wow.
they have already done is awesome. But I'm mad though, because the UK site has these really cool T-shirts that I want, but the UK site, even before pandemic, doesn't ship to the US, and I want those shirts. And I even tweeted them. I was like, "Hey, Eagle Moss US, I would really like if you carried these shirts the UK has. They're awesome. I'd buy them for the UK, but they won't ship here, even pre-pandemic." And then they liked my tweet, and that was it. I was like, respond, show up
Well,
on the site,
we
do
like
something.
that very much. We're
Yeah,
glad you like it, Mr.
right.
Brand.
Which they're having a Black Friday, or not Black Friday, or like holiday-ish sale. I think it's like 20% off, or maybe it's like buy one get something off. Sideshow Collectibles is having 10% off. Ooh, there goes your tax.
Yeah.
And then Entertainment Earth is having up to 80% off. I noticed on things. So
Yeah, they've got some. There were a couple of things that were like blinkety miss on Entertainment Earth, which Entertainment Earth as a site is pretty great because they're pretty comprehensive, and they will carry stuff for a while.
Mhm.
Like even if a lot of other places might not have it, Entertainment Earth will still have it, and it may just because of buying power or just depth of what they order or whatnot, but
Right.
they have they go pretty far back in lines sometimes. They're a good place to fill things in. Like if you miss something, they might have it. They've also been picking up another pain in the ass exclusive for Walgreens, Marvel Legends exclusive,
Okay.
and Entertainment Earth has been picking up some of those exclusives like 6 months or so after the fact. They'll
Liquidation.
offer them. Well, maybe,
Oh,
but I think there's like an aftermarket deal with them too. That like
that's
when the
cool.
window closes on Walgreens, then Entertainment Earth can offer those figures,
That's cool.
and there are a couple bucks more, but it sometimes if it can just save you the frustration, it's worth it.
But yeah, definitely. So yeah, that's figures. Let's move over now to comics and books and comics.
um,
I struggled. I didn't want to cause trouble. I wanted to call this episode Books, Comics, and Things, which was my comic book store when I was growing up.
oh,
But I wanted
nice.
this to mainly focus on figures, which we have a lot, and then books, comics, and things. But I didn't want to, hey, you're copying that. So I just wanted to
Yeah,
note, I love that name. It means a lot to me because I grew up going shopping there. Even when it was just a little room. Now it's a whole floor. But anyways, yeah, comics and books. My comic book reading, it ebbs and flows. I've had hardcore moments. I get in specific spots. Currently, I'm comic bookless, even though I was for a while I was only reading Ibon Press, which was putting out, which they flourish. They're a subscription based or independent, made to order. They were doing Lucio Fulci adaptations.
Yeah.
and taking and kind of taking liberties with them and extending them, flushing them out. And for $14 a month, and they started other deals, but you would get like a slip cover for the comic. It'd come with stickers and stuff and like a little pricing guide and like other little like, and it came in a cool box. And it was really, I mean, for $14, independent comic, really nice paper, good colors. And I was loving those, but then I got in a jam where I was just, $15 for a comic every month, because they did zombie, they're up to the beyond now, but they did House by the Cemetery, and uh City of the Living Dead, and then they were doing Maniac, all sorts of like B movie stuff after Fulci.
Yeah.
But they're kicking ass, and they come with like little vinyls they've had made for them with custom music to listen to while you read. And but that's all I got. I'm gonna plug those guys because they're doing awesome. I haven't bought a comic book from you guys in a bit, but that's a cool site. And they have like a Maniac, their second series of Maniac coming out Black Friday. It's got to deal with that. But that's my comic book plug. But Troy, you are in it with the comics. So
Yeah. I'm gonna start with just a generic plug for some of the smaller uh, presses. I think that people should check out Vault, Scout Comics, Behemoth, and Action Lab, among others, because they are really welcoming to a lot of independent creators or a lot of people who are working in larger companies but that are doing creator-owned material through them, and they are taking risks. There's a
Mhm.
really, and the pandemic really hurt the industry for a while. I
Oh
mean, it
yeah,
really
yeah.
did. But part of the problem with new book development is that there's a lot of places that aren't um, putting money into creator-owned stuff. I mean, you can't get a
Hmm.
page rate on creator-owned. A lot of people have to, if you're pitching a book, you've got to. In a lot of circumstances, you need to come in with, here's my outline, here's my artist that's already attached, maybe here's my colorist, here's like 6 pages, 10 pages, the whole first issue done. And it's one thing
Right.
if you're a writer, but artists cost money, and so more and more people have turned to Kickstarter, and
Okay.
you find a lot of great comics on Kickstarter. But the problem with a Christmas idea of that is that many of those books don't get delivered for months after you pledge them, because in some cases they just need to get completed and printed, which is not a speedy
Hmm.
operation. But it is a good place to go and hang out and find things. But um, I think that some of those small presses will have some stuff that will be of interest. But I did pick 5 things to kind of highlight, just in general, and we can do that pretty quickly.
Okay.
My
Yeah. Yeah.
favorite my favorite thing in comics the past couple of years has been the X-Men line revamp that Jonathan Hickman spearheaded.
Okay.
We started with a mini-series, 2 mini-series that were interconnected, called House of X, Powers of
I've
10, which is an X as well. But um, he took what he's done is that he has turned a couple of key concepts on their head and done some really interesting things and totally invigorated the line. Both of those miniseries, because they're 2 6-issue miniseries, are now available in a single hardcover that normally goes for about $60, but is presently $33 on Amazon. So it's
oh
12 issues in a hardcover, fantastic art, tremendous story, and it sets up all the other stuff.
okay.
Because it spun off a whole bunch of new number ones out of it, like a new X-Men series that Hickman himself writes. He also writes a New Mutant series. The New Mutant series features a lot of the classic New Mutants cast and a couple of members of Generation X.
Now available in 4K Ultra HD.
Yes. And then there's an X-Force book, the Marauders book that Kitty Pryde headlines, is great. Um, what's cool is that there's a lot of fun and a lot of inventiveness, and they've done a lot of like really weird shit.
Mhm.
But because it's Hickman, and Hickman has done this before with Fantastic Four and Avengers, he'll tell a very long, multi-year story that encompasses a whole bunch of different ideas and everything, and then he'll get to the end of it, and then he's gone, and he just hands it off to the next people.
Okay.
And so he's in the midst of this X-Men thing, but House of X, Powers of 10 hardcover is the place to start if you're curious about that. And it will be available at your local retailer. And I recommend the hardcover just because of how nice it is and how solid is how solidly made Marvel's hardcovers are. They tend to do a really good job with that. I want to recommend the book Bitter Root from Image, which as the name might suggest, it's if you're familiar with different things, it's an interesting alternative world take on superheroics and minority issues at the same time, and it's just one of those things that is very lauded. It's been critically acclaimed, won some awards. It's a very interesting kind of book, and I won't say too much about it. You just
okay. Gonna have to go with you on that one.
Image Comics. And one more Marvel thing. The current run of Avengers that Jason Aaron writes, and he's had Jason Aaron has had other artists. Ed McGuinness has been the primary artist, but other people have come in and out. But if you're familiar with comics, every few years they kind of reboot the Avengers title. There's like a new number one, and but Aaron has done this really great, fun, crazy, globe-trotting, universe-trotting Avengers book that his main idea is that there's 6 core members and a rotating 7th member that comes in and out. And he's done a lot of crazy supernatural shit in the book. So you have Cap and Thor and Iron Man and Captain Marvel and She-Hulk and different characters, but he's also rotated through Doctor Strange and Blade and Moon Knight. And there's been these international concerns going on with like the Squadron Supreme, the Winter Guard, and all these other groups of characters that makes it interesting and kind of gives it an international flavor and scope. And he's taken some minor characters and really elevated them and made them fun, like Ursa Major, who is, if people don't know, Ursa Major is a Russian superhero. His power is he turns into a giant, super strong bear. But they've made the character kind of just hilarious. They've really done a lot of cool stuff with that. And they also, in that book, introduced a team that was working under Black Panther called the Agents of Wakanda. But what they did was they took just like all the cool freak characters that you like and put them on like Fat Cobra, who was a backup character from Iron Fist, and Gorilla Man from Agents of Atlas, like all these like cool like tertiary characters. They just made them like Black Panther's guys. and so he's like this network of agents, Kazar from the Savage Land and Zebu, a saber-toothed tiger, and so, but the book's just fun. It's like a fun superhero book, and a lot of the trades for that are very inexpensive on Amazon and online retailers. Like you get the first trade of the first 6 issues of that $12, which is great.
Yeah.
The comics now cost $3.99 a piece. So if you're getting 6 $3.99 comics, that's $24. You get the trade of the first 6 issues for $13. That's a deal.
Yeah.
And you get a good reading experience. On the DC side, there's been a lot of good stuff. The Batman Last Night on Earth hardcover is very, very good. Scott Snyder's run on Justice League, but I also want to recommend Wonder Woman Dead Earth, which is a really cool post-apocalyptic Wonder Woman story.
Okay.
And you don't get to say that very often, but it's
caught my
cool
interest there.
It's cool when you take a classic character and put him through changes. The Dark Knight Returns was very much like that, or Batman Long Halloween, Superman for All Seasons. But it's cool when Wonder Woman gets her turn on that. So that's one I would recommend. And the last thing that I really want to recommend, and this is totally nepotism, but it's my buddy David Pepos. David has written things for Action Lab, and he's got stuff going to other places. But David has written some really cool, eye-catching books. He's nominated for a couple of Ringo Awards.
Okay.
But he's got 2 miniseries of Spencer and Locke, which David pitches as Calvin and Hobbes meet Sin City, which is awesome. One is a traumatized police detective. The other is his childhood stuffed animal that he sees as his partner. And
that's Calvin.
It's awesome, but he doesn't stop there. Like the first mini series is really a turn on Calvin and Hobbes, with like characters that are evocative of Susie and the teacher and things. The second miniseries does the same trick to like Beetle Bailey and High and Lois. Like the Beetle
Oh,
Bailey
wow.
character is a traumatized vet, and rings and changes. And I know a little bit about what the third one is going to be, and I can't say anything.
All right.
Lasagna.
People who know things on this show, because we had Stephanie Crawford. She knew what the 2 remaining mystery vinegar syndrome titles were, but she couldn't. Sworn to secrecy, she couldn't tell. So it's a theme here.
My hint's lasagna.
There you go.
But he's also got a new book coming out called Scout's Honor, which is sort of like excuse me. What if society collapsed, but the people trying to hold the order together were a cult that their religious text is a Scout's manual.
Okay.
And I've seen the first issue of that. It's badass. And he kickstarted a book called the OZ, which is basically Oz meets Fury Road.
Damn.
And exactly. It's what you think.
Yeah. That's good. That's a good matchup there. Yeah.
He's got a real gift for conceptualizing this just absolute crazy shit. But he's also got a background in like stand-up comedy, and he's just he was a journalist, so he looks at things from really skewed perspective, brings all these different ideas to it. It's like all of his books are cool. He has a website, davidpepos.com. You can order those books. Oh, Going to the Chapel too, which is pretty great, which is about a wedding that turns into a heist.
Okay.
Which that's going to be a movie. He's had a couple of options on a couple of his things. Going to the Chapel, someone is going to make that into a movie, and people are going to love it because it is crazy.
Awesome.
So davidpepos.com. That's David PEPOSE.com. Maybe Brandon can put that in under the excuse me. Make little sparkles as my hands go. But that was my comic thoughts. I didn't know if you wanted to go right into.
We'll go right into books. There's a well-known for any season of the year book called Inhabited that's available now.
Hey, look at that right there.
There you go. It's available now. I have read it. It's awesome.
Thank you. My oldest just read it.
Oh, okay.
I kind of held off on letting him read it, but during the pandemic, because it came out last year, we kind of gave him the green light for Stephen King, and so he's going in order. He's going in order, and he just finished Dead Zone. And I said, hey man, if you want to read Inhabited, you can go ahead. So he he read it and he really liked it, which was cool. It was cool to me because he was talking about it and stuff. And Kyle has read the first story so far. I don't know if he's gone past that yet, but it was fun. So what Brandon's referring to is Inhabited is my short story collection. It's horror short stories. There's 10 stories in it. It's available on Amazon. It's free if you're a Kindle Unlimited reader, and it's $6.49 to get it in paperback.
Gotcha. I also want to plug Prez Maxon, guest on the show last week. Last week. Sorry, I get these mixed up in my head. He has his new novel dropping on Black Friday. So I don't know. He didn't say the title or anything. He says he's trying something new, but it's going to be available on Amazon on Black Friday. So you come on the show here, you have a book, right? Everybody's written one.
Yeah, I'll come back when I had to put it aside for a little bit because we did take some time off, but I'm still working on the novel I did mention last time, so that it's going to be quite some time before I'm done.
Gotcha.
But I'll rattle the chains when it's done. for books by other people. And this is a good one if you've got young kids. DK Publishing. I'm a big fan of DK. You probably grew up knowing DK, Eyewitness Books and whatnot. But DK has an extensive publishing program that goes to fandom. They've done Doctor Who encyclopedias. They've done a lot of Star Wars books, DC, Marvel, whatnot. They have a Marvel book coming out December 1st.
Okay.
That's called. It's one of their like 300-page big reference source books. I'm gonna read the whole title because it's lengthy. Marvel Myths and Legends: The Epic Origins of Thor, the Eternals, Black Panther, and the Marvel Universe. And what it is, they've done these character-specific guides over time. They've done for Cap and Spider-Man and what. They've never done one for Thor. But what they did was they took Thor and put him with a bunch of the cosmic characters,
Okay.
like the Eternals and whatnot. And it's kind of evocative of a new direction they're going in, where they're like putting anchor characters and then doing other stuff around them. Because in 2021, they also have one coming out called Marvel Monsters that will include like the alien monsters, but also like Werewolf by Night and stuff. And then they've got one that's called The Way of the Warrior, which is a Shang-Chi cover and focuses on Marvel's martial artists and stuff.
Oh, okay. Well, they're gonna be bulking him up
like
to promote the movie too. Yeah.
Yeah, they're these reference guides, but they're like very readable. Great art right from the comics. They give character histories and whatnot. They're just a lot of fun. Most of the time, they're structured in a chronological way so that you can learn about the history of a character from the 40s or the 60s or whatever on up, and it's a good resource. But kids really enjoy reading them. Like sometimes, especially if you have a kid that you have a hard time getting them to read, you anchor it in a character or something that they enjoy, and you give them something like one of these big DK reference books. You'd be amazed at how many hours they spend on absorbing that. And they're normally, they can run like $40 or whatever for a big hardcover like that. But the Marvel Myths and Legends is pre-ordering at Amazon for $25.
Oh, okay, that's not bad.
Which is pretty great. And then something else I wanted to mention. You had book drops over the summer in October. Jim Butcher, who writes the Dresden Files series, very popular urban fantasy series. And there's a big gap between book 15 because he has a couple of series going. He's got like a high fantasy series and stuff. But when the Dresden Files book 15 came out, there was a couple of years where he didn't have anything, and then book 16, Peace Talks, came out this year. And as that was getting ready to come out, he's like, oh, by the way, 17 is coming in a couple of months. And so Peace Talks of Battleground dropped like that. And so if you've got fantasy fans and whatnot, even if they're not up to book 16, 17, Dresden Files is a real good way to go. And like, especially with those new books, you might know people that have been waiting on those. There's usually a new Expanse book around this time, but the 9th and final book of the Expanse isn't coming out until next year.
Oh, okay.
So it's a little, otherwise I would have been like, and the Expanse is out, because I would have been, because for quite a long time they came out in December.
Okay.
But it's delayed for the final book in the series. And my kids have been joking about wanting to get me the 6th Game of Thrones book for about 7 years now, and
never gets old.
Yeah. I felt really bad. Connor really wanted to get me the Winds of Winter for my birthday one time, because he knew that was the next Game of Thrones book. And I think my wife kind of like let him down gently, like, oh, it's not coming out yet. And I think he might have been 9. And he's turned 16. So it's one of those. But I would love to say, hey, guess what, Black Friday morning.
Yeah.
But who knows. But yeah, it is a weird time. Every once in a while, if you get on during Black Friday and Cyber Monday, you can find incredible book deals on existing series. And you can find versions like box sets and omnibuses that you might not find other times of the year.
Gotcha.
So I would say, outside of just general recommendations, like if you're a reader, if you have a reader in your life, if you're familiar with their taste, there's always going to be things out there that you can pick up. Or just as a baseline recommendation, if horror fans, like somebody that's really into horror, any of David J. Scull's books are great. He's a historian and a film historian and a cultural historian. He's done books like The Monster Show is a great book on the history of American horror cinema. but he's done books specifically about the Dracula film. He did a really great biography of Bram Stoker, which is cool as hell, and he did one that's on the history of Halloween. So David J. Skal, which is spelled Skal. Any of his stuff, if you got horror fans in your life, would be
Gotcha.
they might not have seen it before.
I have, speaking of Halloween, I have Taking Shape 2, which is by Dustin McNeil and friend of the show, Travis Mullins. They did a book called Taking Shape, which was kind of the sort of a production history of the Halloween movie and its sequels, mainly focusing on the sequels because we all know the stories of Halloween.
Right.
And I talked about the book on one of the early episodes of my show, the 4K Blues Day, when I was showing stuff because I just finished it. But Taking Shape 2 is now about unproduced sequels that book, the first book, kind of tapped on, but this really goes into what didn't happen, what directions people were sent in, scripts they didn't use, which Dustin McNeil, who wrote these books, also wrote the Slash of the Titans, which was about all the Freddy versus Jason scripts that never got used. So this guy's kind of making a name for himself in this field. But that's a good. I haven't read Taking Shape 2, but going off the first book, even as someone who knew a lot about Halloween, they made the stuff I knew already about fun. And there was little trinkets that I didn't know. There was stuff I really didn't know. It was so even if you think you're the most up and up of knowledge, it's still a good read for Halloween fans. I also think I'm a coffee table book guy. Love coffee table books. And if you got a film lover, J.W. Rinsler has like the best books. Like he did the making of Star Wars, is where he kind of got his name. And he's got making a Planet of the Apes. He did Alien recently. There's an Indiana Jones one too, but he goes into the vaults of the studios. He's got notes, taped conversations, all sorts. Like anybody can, if you've read those books, no one can question you about Star Wars. You know more about Star Wars than anybody. And when they're bitching about stuff, well, George Lucas always, these books show you they were making shit up as they went. You want to talk about a pre-planned trilogy? No. He had ideas of things, but see their pants. And there was a whole expansive, you find out like the Star Wars wasn't supposed to be a trilogy. He just got tired and wanted to cap it off because Boba Fett was introduced in Empire Strikes Back to be the main villain of the third movie that then they decided somewhere in the pre-production of Empire wasn't going to happen. They were going to finish it next time or something like that. And Vader was going to take the movie off. There was going to be a hunt for Luke Skywalker's sister across the galaxy. He was supposed to have a sister in a lot of the early stories, but it was not Leia. But you find these notes and things out and these conversations and who comes up with what, and it's outstanding. So you find out this Planet of the Apes, like he's raiding the Fox vaults, I guess. That's the movies he's going after. But it's terrific. And unfortunately, they cut him off from Star Wars around like the prequel time, or he was supposed to do one on Force Awakens, and due to probably not wanting publicized production issues, that's probably they didn't want that. Every year they were like a coffee table or a gift for me. I usually put a coffee table book in my gift ideas every year. And through 3 years, I got the Star Wars ones, and I have the Planet of the Apes. I don't have the Indiana Jones or the Alien one, but they've got photos, like pictures of the notes. It's good stuff. And then another film book that's probably the one with the most buzz of the year is The Big Goodbye, which is about the production of Chinatown and how it affected the world of Hollywood around it, by Sam Wasson, which has actually got picked up and is going to be a movie directed by Ben Affleck, I think.
Oh, wow.
But it was like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood did really well, and they picked this up thinking that could be in that vibe. But I don't know if it will be or not, but it's a good book. And I guess if I have to suggest fiction, the only I'd say this is from last year, but I really like the Doctor Who Target storybook, which is, if you're a Doctor Who fan, I guess. They used to, back in the day, they did novelizations of the episodes.
Right.
And record them. And they were Target novelizations. They had to be a specific length. So they were either, some of them would wind up too short, some of them wind up too long, but they'd have to write stuff that wasn't in the episodes. They'd add scenes here or there, da 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 da. So what they did here is they took each doctor and they found like a little in between thing to write a story between episodes as if it would have been in the Target. And they got a bunch of different writers from the television show and different aspects of Doctor Who to do it. And it's from 13th Doctor down the line, and even the War Doctors included.
Oh, wow.
But it's some of them not good, some of them really good. It's actually got, I think, the last thing Terrence Dix, who was the longtime writer of Doctor Who passed
Yeah.
away. I think this has got his last Doctor Who story contribution. He writes a really good second Doctor Patrick Troughton story that's like got this like it's almost Twilight Zone Doctor Who the way it
Wow.
plays out. It's really good. Joy Wilkinson, who wrote one of the Witchfinder General episode of the 13th Doctor, she wrote one in there that just feels like you're watching TV. Like she has the characters down, she has the feeling down, and it like you have no trouble picturing everything in your head, and it just feels like natural. Like she's just aced it. But there's a lot of good stories in there. There's one that tries to include Tom Baker's Fourth Doctor in the Five Doctors special because he famously didn't want to come back for it. But they show what he was doing at the time. That's his story. So, but it's a really fun book. I enjoy it. Like I'd pick up, read a story a day, and move on. But I really like that book a lot. But that's I guess that's my book recommendations.
I don't know what the date is on it, but did you hear about the announcement? You mentioned Once Upon a Time in Hollywood that Tarantino was doing a novelization.
Yeah, the paperback. That's I like that. That's great.
Yeah, I just wasn't sure the release date. I mean, it was just announced, but then he's also doing a book on that deal that's essays and thoughts on film, and sort of like his version of criticism. He said it's inspired by Pauline Kael.
Oh, yeah.
But it'll be interesting to see that.
Yeah, definitely. And I like that he's going that cheap paperback novel route with it, because a person like him could have been a $50 hardcover,
right?
And he's making it fun and accessible and true to the kind of film, like it'd be a book that Rick Dalton would be reading on set. That's
and I do think it's interesting when people take their talents in a different way like that. He's always talked about stopping directing, so it'll be interesting to see if he does go the.
I think he's stopping directing feature films. I wouldn't put it
Right.
past him to move to directing a different medium, but I am, if he stops, he stops. If not, John Carpenter stopped because he didn't feel he had anything left to say. And I mean,
that's why Billy Joel stopped making new albums, just touring on the old stuff. He said, leave the writing to the younger guys.
Yeah.
I would be surprised if Rodriguez had a good time directing his episode of The Mandalorian. I wouldn't be surprised to see Tarantino show up.
Yeah. Oh gosh.
At some point.
For sure. Do we have any other like notable collectibles we want to talk about here before we head on out? Take this.
It's one of those things where I think that a lot of people who are dialed into a particular area will kind of know what they're after. But I did mention like a stray comment about Hasbro, the Ghostbusters figures. There's probably a lot of Ghostbusters fans who would really dig the what they call the Ecto series. They're $20. They're in that kind of high-end Star Wars Black / Marvel Legends style. You can get them at Target right now. They have all four Ghostbusters and Dana.
Okay.
And Gozer, and then there's I think that there's an exclusive dog that Hasbro Pulse has. But check that out on Hasbro Pulse and see what is all available in the line and where they're available. They're available in regular stores and they're also orderable online. But it's cool to see that available. It came down to just like a money thing for me. I could easily have gotten the Ghostbusters because I love Ghostbusters, but it was one of those things that's like, yeah, but if I buy those, that's like another $80 for the 4, and I know I'm gonna want,
it opens
like
go hard or don't even try.
And Louis Dolly.
You just look and you go, well, I bet that's fun to collect.
Exactly. But considering probably the high probability of Ghostbusters fans who are watching,
Yeah.
And
They
I
also
don't
have
think
a Eagle Moss line too of Ghostbusters, so they have that license as well. So not to keep tooting the Eagle Moss horn. They're not paying me. I just
Oh no, I think it's entirely fair to recommend stuff
Mhm.
that you personally enjoy yourself
Yeah.
because it comes from an honest place. I mean, it's one thing if you're like, and Brandon Peters is paid by Eaglemont.
Right.
It's another thing that if you wholeheartedly enjoy a thing and then talk about it. I mean, I think that's fair.
If they want to
Yeah.
pay me in free product, I will talk about them every week. So
Yeah, like the House of X Powers of 10. I legit haven't enjoyed a Big Two comic in years as
Mhm.
much as I enjoyed that miniseries and the books that came out of it. I mean, it was, I just really loved what they were doing. I'm happy to tell people they should check it out.
excellent. All right. Well, that'll wrap us up for this 2020 holiday gift guide. And it has been a good week on the show here. Troy, thank you again, as always, for coming on the show. It's always a privilege every time.
Thank you for
Every
having
time I have you. Any notable articles or ones that are posted now or upcoming that you'd like to tell everybody to go out and check out?
I am, in a related note, here in a couple of weeks, I'm going to be looking at the most popular toys of the last 75 years for the Post. And I'm not sure exactly what shape that article is going to take because I'm working on it now. But we had talked about it as like last 50 years, and I wanted to go last 75 because that puts it at the end of World War II.
Okay.
Which society really changed. And then, like, very shortly into the 50s, you've got like the hula hoop and
Mm-hmm.
the cowboy toys.
For kids.
Yeah. And then, but that also in very rapid succession, you have Barbie, you have G.I. Joe, and there's a lot of interesting ways that goes.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not just one thing. I mean, I'm just as likely to talk about the Easy Bake Oven as I am to talk about Transformers in that piece. And
Gotcha.
it may be a couple of pieces. It may be longer than that. But no, I write a variety of stuff every week on the Post. Also, if you're into checking out my comics, Spark Shooter, my long-running webcomic, is on Webtoons now, and it's been getting the Webtoons treatment. So the 6th chapter will be going up pretty soon. Now that's if you've read that before, then that's older material, but this is being presented in Webtoons for the first time, like in their format.
Gotcha.
App reader and everything. So, but I really like the Webtoons transfer, and House 137 / All Geek Comics is who does that for me. They do a great job. They make it look really spectacular. So,
all right. And where can people find you on the socials?
Ooh, well, on Twitter at Troy Brownfield, and I'm on Facebook if they dare to go that far.
Okay.
But they can easily find me on Twitter and Facebook.
Not on Parlor yet?
No, I will not be. Well,
First time I made that joke.
Which is the most likely part? Sure, scan the front and back of my driver's license, or yes, I'll take part in your psyops program.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm on Twitter and Instagram, not on Parlor either, at Brandon4KUHD. Written work at whitestleblue.com. The Brandon Peters Show returns tomorrow and for the rest of the holiday weekend with the Old Space Show Turkey Day Marathon, beginning with Space 1999's episode Alpha Child. Until then, remember, keep the positivity in your online film discussion.
Thank you for listening. The Brandon Peters Show is a Creative Zombie Studios production. Produced by Brad Shoemaker and Brandon Peters. Written and edited by Brandon Peters. Announcer vocals by Jessica Alsman. Theme song by Metavari. Web design and show art by Brad Shoemaker with Brandon Peters. All music and clips featured in the episode are property of their respective studios, and no infringement is intended. Additional information on this and other episodes at thebrandonpetershow.com. For any inquiries, press opportunities, or sponsorship, contact mail at thebrandonpetershow.com. The show is available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or anywhere podcasts are found.